Hello everyone, and welcome back to Wunu, your weekly Universal news and updates. If you're new here, and judging by how my videos do on YouTube, you probably are, I make weekly update videos on all of the changes I can find at Universal Studios Florida for your enjoyment. But let's not dilly-dally on the non-important things and get into some updates. Starting us off this week, we have that a new restaurant has opened at Universal. Central Park Crepes has now made its first openings to the public this week. It has 6 different kinds of crepes, each looking even more mouthwatering than the last. It's really great to finally see this open after watching it be built for 2 weeks and then sit empty and crepeless for another 2. If you are interested in getting some crepes of your own, Central Park Crepes can be found in the Central Park section of the Studios Parks, which is just outside of the Hollywood section of the entrance. Something to note for this new restaurant, however, is unlike most food locations in the park, it does not provide mobile ordering, and you must go and wait in line to get your food. A more fun change that also came with the new opening of this stand is that the seating area found on the opposite side of the path from Central Park Crepes put up some umbrellas in order to provide a shaded seating area for people who order crepes. And let me say, thank goodness they did this, because you do not realize how important shade truly is until you have been to Florida in middle of August. And also, thinking about the heat in Florida has made me think of some pretty major news that happened this week, so let's dive into that next. As of this week, a backstage fire happened on Hagrid's Magical Motorbike Adventure. It was stated that luckily no employees or guests were hurt in the fire. However, as expected when something like this happens on a ride, Hagrid's has had to temporarily close due to the incident. The ride has remained closed for multiple days now, and as of the end of the weekend has still not reopened. This timing is all for amusing, however, when you hear some of the other news that happened this week. Over the past weekend or two that Universal has been open, they have been experiencing larger than normal crowds in the parks, especially in Islands of Adventure, which happens to be where Hagrid's is. The crowds actually got so crazy that multiple attractions hit capacity on Saturday this week, and other attractions just hit some very high wait times. Universal made some adjustment to the park to cope with these crowds, however, and some of the things they did is actually pretty major. The first of these changes is they extended the park hours an hour later than they had them on the weekends, but only the weekends. These park hours will return to normal at the start of September, however. The other things they did are park changes to help with wait times and longer food lines. They extended the Incredible Hulk's Express Pass line now into the closed Stormforce Accelerons line to help with the wait, and outside of the Monsters Cafe, Uni added a food cart that sells fast food items that only comes out on the weekends. While talking about all of the news in the parks, let's talk about some news that will only affect the top-tier pass holders. Universal announced some changes to the Premier Pass benefits that will last throughout the pass holder appreciation days. The first of these changes is a Premier Pass holders will gain access to the express lines 2 hours earlier than usual at 2 p.m. instead of 4 p.m. The second change made to the Premier Pass benefits is each person with the pass will receive 1 free Park Hopper admission ticket into the parks. This is most likely to replace the Halloween Horror Nights tickets that usually comes with the pass that obviously is not being given out this year with the event being canceled. Fun fact, around this time last year, construction on some scare zones actually appeared around the park. And speaking of construction, what construction updates do I have this week? Well, when talking about Universal Orlando construction, there is only one good place to start, and that is our favorite unannounced Jurassic coaster, or as I like to call it, the Velocicoaster. Starting off the construction site this week is something on the top hat. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's a bird, people. It's a bird. Yes, an osprey actually made its nest on top of the top hat. It's super awesome to see that we actually have a relative of the creatures we are basing this ride off of looking over it from its tallest point, or they will be until the track is complete and they start running carts over it. Next up on the construction site is a dinosaur cage looking thing that has been brought in and placed on the ground at the site. I'm excited to see if they bring in more of these in the future because they kind of look like containment units used in the raptors in Jurassic World, and they could help confirm that this is the Velocicoaster and not just the Jurassic Coaster. In terms of actual construction, however, this week has continued in the footsteps of previous weeks, and we have added more walls in the area that is under the tower and done more detailing on the rockwork. However, unlike previous weeks, some tarps have been put up over the areas that are currently being worked on the rockwork, meaning we can't actually see any of the newly painted rock. As for construction anywhere else in the parks, there actually isn't any. The Forbidden Journey locker progress is still on a standby and hasn't gotten any additional theming since last week, and with Central Park Crepes now open, there actually isn't too much to report on construction. But speaking of nothing happening at a location, that reminds me, last week Uni closed 6 different attractions. What happened to them now? Well, most of the attractions that closed quite simply put up a sign on the outside that has an explanation themed to the ride as to why it is closed. One of the attractions, however, had a bit of a different reaction. After his show being closed, Barney the Dinosaur is now doing meet and greets from a small stage in the kids zone. You can find his area simply by following the happy music that is blared whenever he makes an appearance. Something to note about his area is all of the banners behind him were taken down, meaning Uni probably plans on putting up some Barney banners in the near future. I'm gonna be honest, I've cornered myself here for a transition to the next topic. I started talking about Barney the Dinosaur and can't get out of it cleanly, so I'm gonna just move on to my next topic, which is this week's updates on merchandise. So what has Universal newly released this week for their merchandise? Well, let's start off in possibly one of the coolest stores in the park, the Halloween Horror Nights Tribute Store. This week, Universal added a mold-o-rama machine to the tribute store called the Frankenmold, where guests can mold their own Frankenstein. Team members were telling guests that this won't be the last mold-o-rama machine we see in the tribute store, so I'll keep my eyes peeled for if they come out with another one. Also, now sold in the tribute store is a new Pumpkin King keychain and a new Halloween Horror Nights 2020 face mask. Something interesting that happened is some of the merchandise that could previously only be found in the tribute store can now be found sold in front of the Studios store that is located in the front of the Studios park. Moving back to the idea of new merchandise, new Hogwarts Illumini phone cases and picture frames are now sold. And if you're a pass member, you can now buy a flashback t-shirt that looks like the 30th anniversary Marquee t-shirt. Also, now if you look in the phone case kiosks, the 40th anniversary Marquee print can now be made into a phone case. So that's all of the large updates I found in Universal this week. But that doesn't mean that there are small updates too. So what small things did I find in the park this week? Well, this week I actually only found one small thing, and it isn't even in the parks. Universal updated their app so that when you open the main tabs, there is now an icon labeled Halloween Horror Nights. When you tap on this icon, it simply takes you to a page that has the same statement that went on the official Halloween Horror Nights website when the event was canceled. So that's all the updates I could find at Universal Orlando this week. However, before I go, if you made it this far, I have a question for you. I want to come up with a name for the osprey that made a nest in the top of the Velocicoaster top hat, but I don't know what to name it. So if you have a good idea for a name, leave it in the comments below, and you'll probably have a good chance of me using it. Anyways, thank you for watching, and with all of that said and done, this is Wunu, signing off.